All right, hey everybody. We are live. The team's just giving me thumbs up. We got a lot of the members jumping in here. Good to see everybody. And by the way, I'm solo today. So we are going to actually stream this live on YouTube too. So members, we got you on here and we have a lot of your advanced questions and stuff like that, but we're going to go ahead and stream this live. I know some of you asked if we could stream some of these live to some of your friends and stuff like that. So we are doing that today. So I think I got thumbs up from the team. And a lot of the people jumping in. We all good to go, guys? All right, so I will say, got all the member questions here in advance, so I'll probably be hitting some of those, and then you guys can also get in the chat, stuff like that. And yes, Sarah, we are in South Florida today. Yes, we are in the hangar, just so you know. That's why it's so muggy. It's muggy here in South Florida right now. There's been rain and crazy thunderstorms and stuff. But let's go ahead and dive in. So we got a couple VIP member questions that already came in. One is, hey Brian, are you close to Boca? And thoughts on the fort, okay. Yes, the Boca crash. So we are close to Boca. We're just a little bit south of Boca Raton, like 20 minutes, not even 5 minutes in the plane here. I mean, I'll spend a few minutes talking about my thoughts on that crash and stuff. And I think for all you guys that don't know, it's the one in Boca Raton where they took off on a 340 and they had a rudder that just went hard right and they were kind of flying in circles and stuff. Look, I'm not going to get into critiquing pilots or the equipment. That's not my thing. I'm not an expert at that stuff, but I guess what I like to do is have these conversations with you guys and members and all of us just to talk about the situation from a standpoint of what options were there as a pilot, what could we have done differently. I'm always thinking about what could I have done differently and things, and that's part of my visualization too in all my training, whether it's in our off-road or in our firearms world or aviation and stuff. I'm always visualizing getting into situations like that and what I would do and things like that. I will tell you guys before getting into this, and by the way, I think this was a 340R, right? So I think R is the long nose 340. If you guys can pipe in, let me know, send me a message or something, but I think the R is just the long nose is the biggest difference in that plane in the 340. But you know, I've had stuff like this happen, and I guess one of the biggest things that I always think about is the calmness and being calm when a situation like this happens, like aviate, navigate, communicate. You know, that is so important. I can tell you I've had a few incidents in my thousands of hours of flying. I mean, I had a engine out on IMC approach in the Citation. That was interesting. Maybe if you guys want to hear about it, I'll tell you how that ended up, what we did there. I had to gear up in a flight school plane while I was a student. I was only like 20 hours into being a student, and the plane just came out of annual, and I go fly, I put the gear up here, bang, I got no lights and no gear coming down. So that was interesting, 3 hours of fuel. But this one is unique, and I've actually had a situation in the Conquest, which is the turboprop, the 441, similar to what they experienced in that 340R. I was not at altitude, but I was coming down out of the flight levels. I was down about 14,000 feet, coming down into South Florida on one of the arrivals. And I was just doing a scan of my instruments and stuff, and something just stuck out that was weird. I mean, I looked at my turbine inlet temperatures, and the left side was really kind of high, not like crazy over limits, but it was higher than the other one, which I thought was weird. And I'm just like, why are we flying so slow? It was probably about 20 knots slower than we normally fly. And then I looked at another scan, and my bubble was just off the chart. So we were uncoordinated in this serious way. So I was like, okay, something's going on here. And then, and at that point, the plane just felt like it was shutting a little bit. So I hit the autopilot, turned the autopilot off. As soon as I did that, the plane went into a crazy slip at 14,000 feet at 280 knots. And I had to immediately account for it, go full rudder, and I was holding with all my might, and I'm like, what is going on? So my point in saying that is, number one is aviate. So the first thing I had to think about is fly the plane, aviate, got it, the plane was stable, I was flying the plane, everything was okay from that standpoint, and then I could say, okay, I'm stable right now. Let me figure out what is going on here. So as I searched around, it looked like what happened was the rudder trim from the autopilot just worked its way all the way to one side, and I didn't notice because as it was doing it, the autopilot was correcting for it. So I was in this kind of weird crab that was going on at 14,000 feet, high speed. So my point is, as soon as I hit the autopilot off, the plane just immediately, violently kind of yawed and went into like this massive slip. So as I was stable, then I looked around and say, oh, look at this rudder, brought it back, got the plane stable. So my point in saying that is, I could fly the plane, it was stable. Why do I bring that up in this Boca crash? Well, I bring it up because when you do look at the data from that Boca crash, what happened? You know, first of all, there's a lot of stuff I don't know. So I just want to be clear about that. I'm not instructing anybody on this or anything, and I don't want to be a Monday morning quarterback, but there's a lot of stuff I don't know, and I wasn't in the cockpit. But there are things we do know, and the things we do know, we can certainly learn from. What do we know? We know the plane took off, and we could see from all the data that it immediately went into a left-hand turn. And then he kept climbing a little bit, and he kept going in the left-hand turns, and then after, now that we've looked at all the data, the communications and stuff, he was flying the plane and going in left-hand turns and trying to bring it back into Boca. So we knew the plane was flying. It might have been tough, it might have been hard. Sure, maybe his legs were killing him at that point. Whatever it may be, I don't know. But what I do know is the plane was flying, and he had 3 hours of fuel at that point. So to me, that is like, okay, now I have to start to think about, I would probably say, and by the way, this is a conversation about what I would have done in that situation. And I visualize this exact situation. I'm not telling anybody they should have done something. This guy was experienced. I got nothing to say about him as a pilot. But I think to myself, I get 3 hours of fuel. I'm at least flying the plane, however it may be, difficult or not. Now I have to start thinking, all right, well, what are my options? After 1 or 2 passes, trying to land while you're turning, on an airport that is 1 runway, very thin, no outs. There is airplanes all down the right-hand side, there's fields and schools and stuff on the left-hand side. I mean, it's a tight runway. If you ever have flown into Boca, there's no crossing runways, there's not a lot going on there. So after 1 or 2 passes, I would have had to say to myself, I'm not landing here. Now let's talk about what options are there. I would immediately said, well, what do we got? Well, first of all, not even 2 minutes south of that is Pompano. Three or four runways going perpendicular, big, huge, wide open fields, grass all over the place, a golf course there, which had trees, so that probably wouldn't have been very helpful. But the point is you had Pompano and it's wide open. The other thing you had, not even a minute from Boca, is the coastline and the ocean. I mean, if you look at, you know, the waves were calm that day, the ocean was calm that day. At a minimum, I would have went and tried to ditch in the ocean because, you know, you got the water there and things like that. So that was an option to go. I just wouldn't have done Boca. That was clearly going to be a problem and stuff. So that's one thing that I looked at. You know, one thing I also think about, because even I've had a couple situations in a King Air coming out of Stewart, had a gear issue or something, or, you know, even that instance I had in the Conquest, that Get-There-Itis is still kind of going. And what I mean by that is, like, when you have an incident like that, it's human nature. We're like, I want to go deal with it at home. I want to get home and deal with it. Or I want to, you know, have to get back to home base where my base is. It's just human nature. I mean, you got to kind of forget that if you got a situation like that. It's like, you got to save lives first. So that's, you know, in the plane and on the ground. So, you know, that's one thing. And I can tell you, my experience, I came out of Stewart in the King Air, went with the gear up, weird horn noises and stuff. Some stuff happened. I'm not sure exactly what it was. After that, you know, we get out of the ocean. We're heading down to Fort Lauderdale. There was no problems. There was no indication there was any problems or something. It was just something very unusual. I got down to Fort Lauderdale exec. I was like, wow, everything's fine. I mean, I'm going to get down to exec. And I get down to exec and I asked the tower controller, hey, I'm going to put my gear down. You mind just taking a peek at it? I heard a weird noise coming out of Stewart. And I'll never forget what he said to me. So you flew all the way here? Now, yes, I did, because I was in that cockpit. I was the one in the cockpit, and there was nothing wrong with the plane at that point. So I don't know what it was, just some weird noises that we had in the King Air and stuff. But my point is that it was in my mind that, well, I want to get home and try to deal with it. So anyway, I'm just throwing that out there. But again, the only thing I could say from the Boca crash to Jason, to answer your question and stuff is, you know, if you're flying the plane, you got time, you have time to think and come up with better options and stuff, and talk to controllers and stuff and come up with something. So I probably would have went right out to the ocean there knowing I'm going in circles, and I probably would have had a much better chance ditching it right off the coastline there than I could have trying to get it into that really narrow runway in Boca. So that's that. I just wanted to share that with you guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. You know, either put a comment in here Let me double check. I see you guys here, but put a comment in. Let me know what you think on that, but let me go to another member question. And by the way, yes, all the members and stuff, I got some of your advanced questions, so that's good. We're not having questions from YouTube, so it's just from you guys and the members. The plane, I think we talked about it was a 340R, and the R I think is the long nose. I don't have a lot of knowledge on the 340. 441, I can talk to you all day long, but so that's that one. Let's see, Sarah again, new favorite location on E3 Skyshield. Yeah, I know, I told you guys we were gonna go fly. There's a new location mid-Florida that we can go to in the Carbon Cub on floats and go to the beach. We've been trying to get out. The weather just hasn't been cooperating. We tried like 3 times, but there's one I want to go to there. There's a couple more that came up. Man, out in Colorado and Utah and Idaho and stuff, you guys have put a ton of locations in there, so those are great. Thanks for doing that. Can we do more EDC? So, okay, so EDC, our everyday carry. For pilots, not firearms, I guess we got a lot of crossover, firearms and pilots. We typically don't do firearm stuff in aviation. But tell you what, I'll get back with you guys maybe next week or the week after. I might have somebody come here that was a FAA agent and also undercover. We're working on that. Actually, he'd be really good to do an EDC, talking about EDC in our airplanes, like how do we stage our airplanes and how we carry our guns in our airplanes. We'll probably even get into a little bit of the legalities of crossing state lines and flying your planes in with your firearms and stuff like that. So maybe, I mean, if you guys want more that kind of stuff in aviation, let us know and we can squeak some of those in, but that's usually over on E3 Firearms. Definitely cool stuff. We are also going to be doing, we're working with a company, MyMedic, who we have worked with for years, all the way in our off-road, E3 off-road, E3 Firearms, all of that. And we're going to be talking a little bit about medical equipment in your airplane. What should your tourniquets look like? There's some new stuff that we got to talk about in tourniquets, which is really important. So see that on the next live stream for members. We'll go through that. Our kits, we're actually going to go through some of the kits, what we have in them, why is it important for airplanes and stuff like that. So watch for that one. That one's coming up. So we will do more of those. So make sure you like and subscribe if you're on the YouTube side. Like and subscribe and get the notification bell, and we'll make sure you guys be part of that with our members. Let's see here. We'll get some more coming in. Okay. Yes, all right, Justin, saw the ATC taxi video, cool. That one actually, we just put that on YouTube not too long ago. Really good thoughts. How did you come up with that? Okay, so for those of you that might not have seen it, if you haven't seen it, on the YouTube channel, it's not in the membership, it's actually on the YouTube channel. It's only a short, I think 3 or 4 minute video about when I'm taxiing, sometimes controllers don't tell you across the runway, or just go watch it, you'll see. But one of the things that I do when I'm taxiing is I think about, in my mind, like, what are mission critical things? What are the things as a pilot that I need to give that little extra thought about, that if there's a problem, either communication with ATC or me, or I do something wrong, that could result in something substantial or something really bad. Crossing a runway when airplanes are landing and you don't have clearance, that's really bad. You know, landing when you haven't had clearance, that's really bad. Taking off when you don't have clearance. So there's probably a handful of things in my own brain that I call mission critical components. I kind of look at it as like, and by the way, this isn't training for you guys, I'm just sharing how I deal with this. You know, it's kind of like in my brain, we all have our own personal minimums. These are kind of in my personal minimums, so to speak. So, and by the way, you're going to hear the Sheriff Broward Department starting up the helicopter right now. We actually got some really cool stuff coming up for you guys. I'm coordinating with those guys now in their SWAT team that flies and everything with them. We're going to be doing some cool aviation videos for you guys, but hopefully the crew will tell me if it gets too loud or not. But so back to what I was saying is, you know, we all have our own little personal minimums. Part of the thing that I have in my brain are those mission critical things. Like if I get cleared to take off, that to me is important. Or if I haven't got cleared to take off or cleared to land, crossing a runway. I see it a lot. I'll hear ATIS, like we heard in this video, you guys can go watch it. And in the ATIS, it says there are multiple runways in use. They're in dual runway operation. They cleared me to taxi to runway 27, which crosses runway 31. but she didn't say to me, cleared the runway 27, cleared to cross 31. Now, obviously we all kind of know that if I'm cleared to taxi Delta to 27, I'm cleared, even though I'm crossing that runway. I get it. I go the extra step. If I know that and I heard ATIS and I'm about to cross a runway that's an active runway that's on ATIS, I emphasize the word. So I said, okay, 79 Golf Bravo, Charlie to 27, crossing runway 31. And I emphasize crossing. Why? One is I'm making her verify that I can cross that because it's an active runway. Two is the way that I say it breaks the pattern in their tower and what's going on. They're going. So it breaks the pattern a little bit. And then she came back and said, thank you, yes, cleared to cross 31 to 27. And we just had an incident. You'll see a video coming out here in about a week or two, coming back into one of the Class Charlies, listen to the ATIS, and it was runway 9, and he said, enter a left downwind for 27. I'm like, left down, no, you mean runway 9, correct? And I had to correct them. Point is, I listened to ATIS. If I had did that and I didn't question him, so hold on, the team's telling me it's getting a little loud. There they go. America, yeah. So if I didn't listen to ATIS or I wasn't confident enough to question controller at that point, maybe I'm a young student or something, and I went to enter a left down to 27, that would have been a problem, especially what was going on with traffic and stuff. So I had no problem questioning them and questioning that. So anyway, we got some cool videos come out where we're going to talk about more of that stuff with you. So go check out that taxi video. But like I said, I have those mission critical things in my brain that I'm always double checking and things like that. What else do I fly and what's next? Guys, you guys have been following me. You know I've had tons of airplanes. I think I'm up in 15, 16 airplanes now. Citation rated, King Air 350 rated, I've flown King Airs, Conquest, all kinds of turboprops, float planes. I think the next thing I want to do might be going to get my glider endorsement. That's something I thought about for a long time, and a lot of folks said it's just a blast. Let me know if you guys know somebody maybe in the Florida area that you suggest that maybe I go do that with. Hit me up, let me know. But I might do that. That'd be kind of cool. So let's get to some more questions here. So we got okay. So I got yours, Sarah, Justin, and another member question here. New equipment. Sure. Well, some really cool new equipment coming over on the firearm stuff. We can check that out. Actually, I'll show you guys. I'm allowed to talk about it now. You probably heard some stuff, and it's not just the lift helmet. I'm not going to go into the lift helmet in general. You guys have seen me fly with the lift helmet, especially on float plane, especially in the aerobatics. The more and more I'm flying with this helmet, especially because it's so light and it's vented and stuff like that, and it's just so comfortable. It just gives you a little bit more comfort level. I don't know why I wouldn't fly it with anymore. But I do want to show you something that probably not a whole lot of people either know about or seen. The reason I know that is because there's only a handful of them on the planet right now. And this is one of the beta versions. I will tell you that lift, over the years, the majority of stuff I buy it myself. They didn't give me anything. These helmets are the first time that they're working with me to do some beta testing for them. Because of all the different types of aircraft I fly, I've been testing this in different aircraft and seeing how it's working in different stuff. But I'm going to show this to you as a little secret about this helmet. Like I said, you've seen me fly with the lift helmet a lot. I love it. It's great. You want to go check it out. I got a half-hour video that I did on that helmet. This helmet is something special. Looks the same, right? Pretty close, except the visor is a little bit of a different color and stuff. This particular helmet has something very special in it. And if you look right here, there's a little connector here. So what does that do? Well, first of all, I've got the light speed noise canceling headsets in here, and then there's this little connector here. What that connector does is goes inside here to a little module. It's a new module that doesn't come in the regular helmets, and it's got some programming and stuff in it, which they just updated for me, that allows you to go with in-ear, and you can see how one's longer than the other, and we'll talk about that in a second. So you can go in-ear and have noise canceling. So this changes into noise canceling only, so you don't have the audio right this second, but and then you have audio coming through this. Now, if I unplug this, the audio is coming through the headset, so it's almost like if this breaks, you don't want to use it, unplug it, and then you got your audio coming through here. But you got the best of both worlds, and it's incredible. I got another video coming out that I'm going to share with you guys, and we're trying to bake some of the audio into the video so you can kind of hear the differences and stuff. But to have this really good quality in your ear, really comfortable, and noise canceling on the outside, it's really a game changer. I mean, first of all, if you go watch my video on the helmet, I thought this helmet was one of the first. Look, I'm holding this. See how light that is? I thought this was one of the first helmets I've seen in a while that was really had some really good new innovation in it, which was cool. So anyway, so here's what happens. You see how one's longer than the other? So the long one, you basically throw these over your shoulders, put these in, then you throw the helmet on over the top of it, then you just reach back and pop that in there just like that, and then you've got that new technology. Now, at first I was a little worried when I heard about this, and I said, oh, you guys got to get me that. I definitely want to try that. I was a little worried because I'm an old school pilot. I want to hear the plane. I want to hear the engines and stuff. And I was a little worried that, wow, is it going to really be that quiet? You know, it got a lot quieter, but I don't know how they did it, but you could still hear the important parts of the airplane, but it wasn't overwhelming, and wind and all kinds of stuff going on. You could still get a feel for the engine and stuff. So I'm hoping there's a way we can bake that audio in for you guys to hear that. I'm hoping the team can do that. We're working on it, but you can't buy these yet. They're not on the website at Lift, but I would put this on your calendar. And if you're into helmets, or if you're not into helmets and you're flying bush flying or seaplane or carbon cubs or off country, any of that, man, just go try it. I mean, it's just once you start flying with these, you won't not want to fly with it again. But put this on your calendar, because as soon as they come out, get them. I know when these first came out, they were hard to get just by themselves. This is a game changer, so check that out. So that's one thing. Also new equipment. Yeah, we put a new Molly panel in the Carbon Cub. Well, actually, you know what? When we do, if we're going to do an EDC video for you guys, the Everyday Carry, it's basically, you know, everything from our firearms to what we carry on, you know, our flashlights and all that kind of stuff. But more importantly, it's what we carry in the plane, what we do when we fly. You know, I have a bag, certain bag. We'll go through all that EDC with you guys. And there's actually, other than that Molly panel that's in the Carbon Cub, there's more stuff that's in my EDC that we can share with you guys. So we'll do that soon. Any other questions coming in? We got, how's it going on the plane search? Still looking. For those of you guys that don't know, we are selling the Game Bird, and we're going to do something new. We're still debating Waco, or do we might even do an NG possibly, or a 330 LTLX, I'm not sure. But we want to experience something new. We've done the Game Bird and stuff, so working on that. I'll let you know. We're probably going to look for another Carbon Cub or a Legend Cub or something like that with like 35s. I want to get another one like that. I do miss the FX3 a little bit. We had the FX3 before we had the Xcub on floats. So maybe we get both or something. So we're working on that and stuff as well. So we'll see how that goes. And team, so you guys got any questions on the YouTube side? I'm just going through the members stuff right now, because we're going to let the YouTube guys go in a bit, and then we'll stay with the members. Okay, so let's see on, Matt, do you have anything on the YouTube side in the comments? I already hit the ones that were on there. So, the full plane or the FX3? Well, I think, I hate to say I want both. I guess I'm spoiled a little bit. The reason I say that is because the FX3 was the 185 engine, and it wasn't as nice on the interior. It's nice, but it wasn't as nice as the Xcub. So we have the Xcub on floats. The Xcub is nicer inside. It's more like a Mercedes inside. It's the 215 engine. There's no cables and stuff. It's rods. Go check out our annual that we just did. There's a video, I think it's out on YouTube, or if it's just in members. It might be out on YouTube too. Go check it out, but we show you the insides and how all the rods and the Xcub work and stuff versus cables in the FX3. FX3, we had 32s on it. It was a blast. 32s or 33s. Might have been 33s. 33s, and you know, that was great. We go all over the place, fly to the ranges and stuff like that. You know, the Xcub is just awesome, and having Xcub on floats, I mean, that's like the ultimate. We just I just don't like to put it in salt water. So I kind of limited to the places I can go here in South Florida. I mean, you go up to New Hampshire and Midwest and stuff. I mean, there's some really great places. Mid-Florida, it's like the seaplane capital, Traverse and those areas. So we go up there occasionally, but I just want to experience something new. Ultimately, I'd like to have both of them sitting side by side. Yeah, that'd be great. So that's to answer your question out there, Matt. So I'm just going to hit the last question for you guys on the YouTube side, though. You saw that we have the 360 X5s. You know, we're checking them out now. We were thinking there was going to be some problems that it solved for us, and we're not exactly sure yet. I mean, it is cool. Now we're 8K, and I think, what are we, guys, 8K and 120, or is it 6K 120? 6K 120 or 8K, you know, and if we're punching in and stuff like that, it's great when you're in 8K and punching in and you still got 4K, that's great. We're trying to solve a little bit of an issue in the i360 editor, how to do the keyframes and all that. And we thought we could do something special. We're still toying with the X5. So far, good camera, working well. We just did if you guys remember Chad Barber, go check out Barber Aviation. He just did a flight in the Game Bird, and we're testing out the X5s, and it's some really cool footage. So we did a point of view on his head, and then we had the X5s on there as well. So that's pretty cool. We actually probably have another video coming out with that all edited and stuff. You want to go check that out. Right now, it's on the YouTube Shorts, so check out Chad Barber's stuff. I think those are the biggest questions for you guys on that side. We are getting to our time here, but so last, if you guys have anything else, hit me up here. I'm just looking at my side here. And so, yeah, so look, please like and subscribe and tell us in the comments if you want more of this on the YouTube side. We will do some of these on the YouTube side. We do a lot more in the E3 membership with our members. We have live calls, experts. I'll probably have an expert here next week that I'll bring on with you guys. It should be a really cool episode. So like and subscribe and hit the notification bell if you want to get notified for that. I'm still working out the details. And then we do have some of the sheriff's guys come in. We've got Fish and Wildlife next to us. We're trying to work some stuff with them. It's the aviation departments, just so you guys know. So anyway, check that out. And I think we're going to close it out on the YouTube side, and we'll stay in with the memberships, guys. So everybody on YouTube, thanks for coming and sharing. We'll see you on the next one, and take care.